said I was practicing. Here you go. It's two Mustangs that's now Luftwaffe per plane as well. That's just a little bit of practicing. Anyways. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Yeah.
I've never done anything like this before, so it's the first time.
We'll be gentle.
What's that?
We'll be gentle.
I hope so.
We're not harsh critics.
Okay. The Skyraider that I don't have yet tonight, I think it would have been a good idea to actually bring the Skyraider. Anyways, brain fart. I'm just going to show you guys the part, because of the Skyraider, the most distinctive thing is those exhaust stains on the side. So I thought when Tim asked me to do this for you guys, I was like, well, you can go watch YouTube videos of weathering the usual way, like Mr. McCracken was telling us earlier on about, you know, pre-shading, post-shading and all that. I mean, I don't really do the pre-shading. I do like post-shading most of the time. On the Skyraider, I started off with a darker sea grey, you know, color. I basically did what Mr. McCracken was saying there, like, you know, you go with your panel lines and just low pressure spray the panel lines. And then I don't do what most other guys do, is they usually go and mix a white or a black or a grey or something into that, and then you know, to do the panel, lighten up the panels. I just use the next grey. So I don't mix anything. I just take the next grey in the line, which is usually lighter or darker, and use that to do just little, you know, little squiggles. And just fill in every panel. So it doesn't take an hour. It takes a couple of evenings to do that. And so on the Skyraider, the only other thing I really did there was where there was usage around the wing roots here, I just used some buff to buff with this airbrush. Just use very low pressure, very thin paint, like 90% thinners and 10% paint, and just basically put a light coat of buff on the edges there, and that's what made it look like it was, you know, that's just general usage. So the paint just kind of faded where people, maintenance guys, were working on the paint. So that's my general way that I just use, even on the Uhu, but it's not that visible because you have all the squiggles right over all that. So yes, I have lost. But the thing that I actually wanted to show you guys is the method that I use to do the streaks on the side. So that's something that I discovered or designed, or whatever you want to call it, like the paint painting. This is just something that Will Patterson from YouTube used on his Spitfire. I just took it way out of what he did. He just did a little bit of it, and so on the Skyraider I just went way out. So there's three colors of, well, number one is it's not paint, it's ink. And the reason I'm using ink, or the reason Will was using ink, was because you have this Liquitex acrylic ink that's transparent as well. It's not like opaque, it's transparent.
Yeah.
And if you look at exhaust stains on planes, most of the time it's like a mixture of oil and grease and what have you that's coming out the exhaust there. So there's a slight shiny, transparent kind of thing to it. And that's probably why Will was using that, because it gives you that effect of greasy oil coming out of the exhaust. So that's what I'm going to do tonight, just show you guys how to do, or how to airbrush that essentially, and how these inks work. I don't know if has anyone else used inks before? Okay, so it's not nothing. It's nothing new then. To me, it was something new. I've never used it before, so I was like, well, this is what I'm going to use to do the exhausts on the Skyraider. So with Liquitex, you have like 3 different transparent colors: raw umber, burnt umber, and then burnt sienna or burnt sienna.
Where do you get those inks? It's art store?
Art store. I bought these online at what's it, Blix?
Dick.
Dick
Blix.
Blix
Blix,
art store.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jerry's got it.
Yeah, and Michael's has got them as well. I'm pretty sure I saw some of them at Michael's. They might not have, you know, all 3 colors. And then I have a black and a white just to lighten this up, but the black and the white's not transparent, so I didn't use that again. I mixed it, and then it takes that transparency out of these. So you're kind of stuck with these 3 colors essentially. Anyway, so the thing that like I said, I used is my it's a harder than Steenbeck airbrush. What's it, Infinity or something? What's it? Yeah, Infinity CR Plus. This is with a 0.15 millimeter needle, very low pressure, or what I consider low pressure, operating at about 10 psi right now. That's where I start usually with the light streaks. And then sometimes you need to turn it up a little bit, the pressure. And I have a little flow control valve as well, which controls the flow, not the pressure. And sometimes you have to adjust that as well. But I mean, there's other ways of doing that. So, anyways, you can just use the ink right out of the bottle. You don't have to thin it or anything like that. And the only other thing I wanted to say, guys, is I didn't want to show you the way that I do the other weathering, because it's all lacquer. I use lacquer paint. I don't want to
Clear the room.
clear the room, yeah. give everyone else
Oh, that's great. I'm really good.
cancer or something like that. So that's why I'm if you're disappointed with what I'm going to do, then do you want cancer or do you want? The other thing that I'll show you as well is that you can work this ink as well. So on the Skyraider, I worked the paint a little bit, you know, to make, like I saw in some Skyraiders, you could see like hand marks and stuff where the technicians or whatever was wipe, you know, parts of it and things like that. So, and you can also just use kitchen towel. You can spray it on there, and I'll show you guys what effect it gives you if you do that. Because I believe it or not, on the Skyraider, I don't know if the guys that look close up would have seen that there's like little, you know, it'll leave little like a residue or leftovers from the ink in the crevices on the wings and things like that, which looks like slight build-up of the smoke of the whatever's coming out of the exhaust, and then it was cleaned. So on the Skyraider, you can see there's on some of the Skyraiders you can see that someone cleaned it, but of course they left that little mark in there. So I'll show you how. It's quite easy to do that actually. But anyway, let's get on with this.
When you say lacquers, do you mean true lacquers or like a
No.
hybrid, not the lacquer
No, no.
acrylics? Okay.
No full-on lacquer.
Is that like Mr. Paint or
Mr.
something?
Paint, yeah. Mr. Paint, and then Tamiya's new lacquer range as well. I do use acrylics as well, Tamiya acrylics. But I mean the carrier is what's the problem. I mean you can.
Sure.
That's what I understand from the research that I did. Is like I see a lot of people saying, oh, you know, like you can use acrylics without a paint mask, and I was like, depends on what carrier, what's carrying that paint, those pigments. If it's lacquer or whatever, some other thing, then guess what? You have to wear a mask. So, anyways. So I just do a little bit of ink in there. do a test run. I'm just doing this to make sure the pressure is alright and all that. It's not priming the airbrush really. Now you guys can already start seeing the effect. That's just on. Okay. So imagine if this was exhaust, you know, the exhaust was sitting right there or something like that. You don't want that.
I can already do that.
And then, of course, there's no clear coat over here, so we might actually remove some of the paint. I hope not. This is just the Tamiya's exterior.
So because you're using lacquer, are you just going straight onto this, or are you doing some sort of lacquer clear coat before you're weathering?
What do you mean?
So you do your initial paint coats, right? Your however many layers to build up
Yeah,
a base.
yeah.
Then do you do decals, seal, and then do your weathering, or are you doing distressing before? I'm just curious when in the process you are doing this.
With the Skyrider, okay, with the Skyrider, I did the normal base painting like I told you guys earlier on, which is nothing special. Did the decals, or decals, clear coat, then a matte coat over that one, and then I did the exhaust paint on that. So it depends on what you're doing, really. I mean, if you're doing because I wanted the transparent, oily look on that thing, it wouldn't make sense to do the streaks in the beginning and then matte coat all of it, because you would just basically wasted your time doing all of this. Yeah. So, and this ink does actually dry tip. It does actually give you dry tip for some reason. I don't know why, but that's what just happened. So I don't know if you guys can see that. I mean, you can leave that right there for a very basic streak. And then I just build where the exhaust comes out, just build that up. And you have to give it a couple of minutes to dry.
Is that the bird scanning your spray?
Oh, sorry. Burnt umber.
Oh, really?
Then
I thought it would be a little dark.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you have a lot of control about building it up to. I mean, on the Skyrider, eventually this is all I use. I only use the burnt umber. I did try all three of them at one stage, but I had to remove because it just didn't look realistic. So with the burnt umber, you have a lot of control about the opacity there, so you can actually build it up till it nearly looks black.
Sure.
You know, the beginning part. If you keep on going over that a couple of, or more than a couple of times, like 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 times, eventually it gets black. Actually, but I'll do that now. Actually,
Are you drying or flash drying between coats at all while you're building up, or you just
I-
let the liquid do what it does because it's meant to be a liquid stain?
I use a hairdryer
Okay.
sometimes
Okay.
to just speed this up, which I packed all this stuff in like 10 minutes this afternoon to get here, so I should have brought.
That's a common technique in watercolor painting.
hair dryer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Especially if you're doing something quick.
yeah. So I should have brought the hair dryer as well to get this to go a bit quicker. But yeah. So I've used the hair dryer before on the Skyrider. I actually used the hair dryer too, just on the evenings that I was impatient, just to speed it up a bit. Because like I don't know if you guys remember last month I said like this the streaks on that Skyrider was attempt number 3 as well. It's not like perfect the first time. Yeah, and it's not dry yet.
Can I ask you a question about that infinity brush?
Yes, sure.
I've got one of those. Do you ever find it when you're coming off the paint feed that it splatters a little bit? Have you ever had that happen to you?
It does sometimes.
Yeah.
What I do then is take that off,
Right.
and I have a. I thought there's lots of stuff I didn't actually bring that I should have brought. I just have a piece of sponge,
Right.
and I just whack the needle right into that sponge. And
Yeah,
that-
I was, I bought one, it's like, geez, I like this thing.
And
It's
the
really
thing
a
is-
nice piece,
Yeah,
and I go back to using my 45-year-old Pache.
it works fine. Yeah, yeah. It's a very, very, very sensitive needle on here, so like that's how I get around it. I just have a little like a sponge that I bought at what's it auto.
Right.
One of the auto stores, and I just, as soon as it starts doing that, I just whack it in there. It takes that little nub of paint off there, and then back to how it's supposed to be. Okay, so it doesn't look too great, but anyway. And what's happened? What happened here is you can actually wet, well, what I call wet. You put like a slightly larger amount of ink on there, and just run it with a airbrush actually. So if you guys come closer, you'll see what I'm talking about. You actually have an actual run there.
You're talking about like a puddle.
Yes, yeah.
Like it would if it was bleeding
Yes,
oil.
yeah.
Fuselage.
Yeah, so that works really well on a Skyrider because that's exactly what a Skyrider did. Bleed oil and stuff on the side. So, yeah. So for exhaust, this is what I'm using. I've used it not just on the Skyrider. I've used it on my HE 129 as well, or HS 129, and I used it on a Mustang, other Mustang that doesn't look like this. But there, I just like the first run that I did. That was about it for the Mustang that I built. And I don't know, it's quite easy. If you have control of your airbrush, it's quite easy to do that. That was it on that Mustang. The other thing that I wanted to show you guys just with this is you can very easily remove this ink as well. I'm going to exaggerate it a bit. so that you can have like little scratches or whatever in the streak or in that ink, whatever you're using it for. And so that just something else I used on the Skyride as well was just where the maintenance guys were doing that. That's what I did there. But just Tamiya, and even water works as well, because it's acrylic. Water will work, but with water, I found that you don't have so much control over what you can actually do there. It kind of like runs very easily if you're using water. So with this, I actually used alcohol as well, isopropyl alcohol as well. Something that dries rather quickly, that you have substantially more control when you're doing that. When you're using water, kind of, you don't get that effect. And then the last effect that I used, or the last weathering effect that I used, was just rub it off again. There's too much thinner on there right now, but anyway. So whatever effect you're looking for, I mean, you can take an earbud as well, or what do you guys call it? You don't call it an earbud. A Q-tip. A Q-tip and a cotton swab. That also, just to very, very lightly put it in the, and you have even more control when you're doing that. But this I found was, especially if you're looking for just like slightly, if you come up closer, you'll actually see what I'm talking about. It's like you'll have like extra residue left on just behind the panel line, which then makes it look even more realistic, because that's just how a plane usually, it has a little bit more, residue there right at the panel line most of the time. So, and why did that take me like literally 5 seconds to do that? So, anyways, yeah, that's about it.